I am Farley Chavez Augustine. I am a junior, so not Farley the father, Farley the son. And I am running for Palatuvier Langstromy Speyside, and I'm the prospective candidate to be your next Chief Secretary. You know, it took a while for me to get here in politics. For a long while, I always was inspired by, the need to get in politics. From a child, I had loved politics, and perhaps that's because in my household, I wasn't allowed to look at TV and watch movies and shows after news time. So the only thing I was allowed to do during school time was watch the news, shut off the TV, study. And that was a continuous cycle. And so I fell in love with politics. But what finally pushed me over the edge is that I was a teacher and educator for 7 years. And I helped a lot of students from families who had no one going to university to actually get into university. And I was telling my students, look, if you make it through university, you will make it through life. You will be able to come back to Tobago, you'll be able to do something great. But then they were returning to Tobago, and when they return, they keep saying, but Farley, you lied to us maybe, because it ends so great out here for the university graduate. It ends so great out here for me who took my technical vocational skills to the highest level. And I felt I had to do something more. And I had to walk away from the comfort of a comfortable job, because I was teaching literally a stone's throw away from my house. I could walk there anytime I'll be in school, any hour of the day, teaching and helping students. And I had to make the decision to walk away from that so that I could create a society in Tobago that they will want to return to. That's why I'm here. Let me fix this.
Hi, my name is Abby Tanika Taylor, candidate for Darrell Spring Wim Electoral District. I have a passion for relics and antiquities. I love anything old. When I was younger, I always wanted to be a museum curator or an archaeologist. I was always digging up stuff in my yard, or trying to figure out who was this or who was that. I always wondered how people live, like back in the 1800s, how they used to travel, how they used to dress, what kind of foods they ate. Those kinds of things fascinated me, and I think that propelled me into doing history as a discourse and learning more about my environment and learning more about Tobago on a whole. I love history. I think our history is so important, and I believe it is our history that will drive our future. It drives our development. I think a people without a past is a people without a future.
I am Watson Solomon Duke, and my constituency is from the east, Roxborough, Argyle, but it includes Dallaford, Louisdore, Betsy Hope, Argyle, Kendall, Lamy. Watson Duke is where I call a yard man. Me a man from a yard, and so when the average person sees me, they can relate to me. I operate on different strata. I can walk with kings, but I have the touch of a common man. In my work as the president of the PSA, I have the privilege to negotiate with ministers. I've dealt with Patrick Manning, I've dealt with the Kamala Prasad business executive, now I'm dealing with the Keith Rowley executive. So I've dealt with the kings or the leaders of society, but I've also dealt with the door catchers, with the clerks, and with the average rank and file man. I think I best represent all of society. I am Watson Solomon Duke. Let me fix this.
I am Joel Notsi Sampson, representing the electoral district of Bonaccord Crown Point. Well, Notsi comes with a lot of values, but there is one quote that stands out to me a lot. Trust in the Lord with all thine heart, and lean not unto thine own understanding. In all thy ways, acknowledge him, and he shall direct your path. I plan to bring representation with honesty, integrity, and fairness to all. Representation, whether you support either political party, you will be represented. This is time for a clarion call for all residents. Let we fix this. Time to work together and bring the community together.
My name is Terence Baines, and I am vying to represent the electoral district of Bethel, New Grange. After 21 years, the conditions that we see in and around us, the state of affairs in families, the kind of emotions that we are exposed to even as we walk from day to day, and feeling that we should have advanced so much more than we have. I think that the time has come for some fixing to take place. And it is my hope that the people buy into this message of fixing, and that they come out and go to the polls and vote for the PDP so that we can bring some meaningful change to people's lives, and we can also bring a new governance architecture to this space we call Tobago. I am Terence Baines. Let me fix this.
I am Dr. Faith B. Israel, formerly Brebner, and I will be representing Belgarden Glamorgan. Something that people don't know. I love music, and I actually love big trucks. As a matter of fact, the Carnival in 2020 was the first time I was able to be on a big truck for Carnival. I love the idea of having music resonating around me. I love our culture, and I love dancing. A lot of people really just don't know that I love to dance. I love the statement, act so as to encourage the best in others, and by so doing, I will develop the best in myself. This is a statement that guides my life, and it will be the statement that I use to continue guiding how I represent the electoral district of Belgarden Glamorgan and of Tobago. That means that I will work to ensure that everyone's lives is successful. This would ensure that everyone who lives in the district of Belgarden Glamorgan is successful, because by ensuring that they are successful means that I have done my job well.
I bring the values that everybody in my district was raised with, and those are the values of remaining humble, remaining true to self, the value of integrity, the value of being honest, the value of always wanting to share and care. You know, I grew up among people who are accustomed with the lend hand, helping each other out. I grew up with people who shared everything across the fence, with fishermen who took care of me while I was at university, people who purchased my plane ticket to go off to study because the family couldn't afford. And embedded in that experience is what I like to call a Tobago value system, whereby we treat each other better than we even desire to treat ourselves. Because in so doing, we believe that what we sow, we reap, what you give out, you will get back. And those are the value systems that really drive me and motivate me.
My name is Sonny Craig. I am the candidate for Buku Mount Pleasant. My vision for Buku Mount Pleasant is centered around people development. Once the people in my constituency are allowed to grow and blossom, great things will happen in Buku Mount Pleasant. There is, of course, a need for physical attention to many areas in the electoral district. But once my people, and I call them my people, could embrace larger challenges, they would see a brighter future. As my campaign slogan suggests, there are sunny days ahead. I am Sonny Craig. Let me fix this.
My name is Trevor James. I'm your PDP candidate for Scarborough Mount Grace. People see me as this academic guy, but deep down, I'm just a carpenter. Carpentry is a trade I learned after I left leaving Signal Hill, and I actually taught carpentry joinery at Mount St. George Youth Camp. And I think that in itself makes me more amenable to the guys who are working construction, who are left school and looking for a job. I am the person who can understand their needs and their desires and can represent them. I am Trevor James. Let me fix this.
Something about me that people don't really know that will separate me from my counterparts is that there are 3 things I do when I'm stressed. 1, I pray. 2, I sleep a whole heap. And 3, I cook a whole lot. And I have a sweet answer. I pray a lot because I am of the belief that with prayer you get more power, you get more strength, you get resolution, it helps to calm you down. And I do a lot of praying and fasting. In fact, I'm doing that right now, and I do it during every election cycle and in and out of season. When I'm also stressed, I sleep a lot for some reason. A good dose of sleep, you just wake up with some answers. And for me, that's one of the ways I tend to sort of de-stress and to think about life, have introspection. And you're really not a responsible leader if you don't take some time out to do introspection and to reflect and to consider whether you're making the right decisions, you're saying the right things, you're doing the right things. And of course, cooking. You want a 5-course meal? Stress me out. And you can see how much food you will get. I'll cook for the whole village. Because when you're cooking and you have to think about the ingredients, you have to think about flavor profiles, you have to think about what next to put in the pot, and so on. All of that helps to transition your mind away from the stresses of the day. So definitely, what my competitors, my colleagues may not know about me is that treating with stress is perhaps one of the things I do very, very well. And I didn't go to any psychologist to learn it. It's just that over time and over life experiences, I just developed these habits.
I am Niall George, PDP candidate for Plymouth Blackrock. As someone who has regular conversations with elderly, middle-aged and young people, the cry is the same: a lack of representation. This lack of representation is what drives me. As a community person, someone who has been involved in other areas of community work, I have been driven to make Tobago a better place, not for myself only, but for my future generation to come.
My name is Wayne Clark. I'm the candidate for the electoral district of Lambo Lowlands. I got involved in politics because all my life I've been serving, living a life of service. And it was an automatic fit for me to get into politics because it gave me that opportunity to expand that service, not only to my electoral district, but to the total island of Tobago. So I'm Wayne Wass Clark, reminding you, each and every one of us has a responsibility. So together, let me fix this.
I am Zorisha Amina Hackett, current area representative of the electoral district of Plymouth Golden Lane and the PDP's candidate for the new electoral district of Bethesda, Electoral, which also includes the villages of Golden Lane and Woodlands, Moriah. I, Zorisha Amina Hackett, got involved in politics because I knew it was my purpose to make a difference on this island. I wanted to be the change that I was seeking. I wanted to get directly involved where the policies could have changed to empower islanders to also share in that Tobago dream. I, Zorisha Hackett, hereby employ you, the Tobagonian, to get out to the polls and make a difference in your own lives. You have a choice. You can make a difference. Don't just sit idly by as I was doing before 2021. Get out to the polls and put Tobagonians who you know has your best interest at heart. Get to the polls on December 6th, Tobago, and vote the Progressive Democratic Patriots.
My name is Nigel Tate. Some people call me Mighty Man, some call me Tatos. And I am representing the electoral district of Signal Hill, Patience Hill. What really drove me into politics is after hearing what the PDP has to offer for we, the people in Tobago, I said, no, I have to be on this team. Okay, my overall vision for the people in my district is to improve the standard of living for each and every one within my constituency. Also, to rejuvenate sports and culture into my constituency.
Hi, I am Natisha Charles Pantin, the PDP candidate for the electoral district of Bagatelle, Bachelet. I would like to see each and every one of my constituents become financially and economically empowered through fair and just participatory budgeting within each village and constituency.
My name is Mr. Ian Anthony Pollard, also known as Whitey. I'm the Progressive Democratic Patriots candidate for the electoral district of Mason Hall, Moriah. What drove me into politics is to help enhance and empower the persons of my electoral district so that they could realize their full potential while here on God's earth.
My name is Megan C. Morrison, and I'm your PDP candidate for the constituency of Mount St. George, Goodwood. The Progressive Democratic Patriots is an organization with visionary leadership. It is geared towards developing this island called Tobago. We have a poor agricultural sector that needs to be addressed, and the PDP is aimed towards fixing our food security on the island. We aim to see an island that is Wi-Fi friendly. We aim to see young mothers being able to be self-sufficient. We aim to see a city of Scarborough. We aim to see a cargo port on this island of Tobago. PDP is your only choice at this time if we wish to develop this island called Tobago.
When I got into politics, the motives weren't very personal. I just saw myself as someone who could throw on a jacket as a cape, put on a tie, and walk into number 1 Jerningham Street and help to fix Tobago. I've since grown to the place where there are some personal reasons why I am still in this fight. One of those main things for me was my recent interactions with public health care on the island. And I feel like it's one of those areas we could actually do more in that we have fallen down significantly in. And I see way too many of our people dying needlessly not getting the kind of health care that they deserve, that we deserve. And that came out of my experience, actually working through my mother's illness and the fact that she got sick, went to the hospital. The earliest date for a test result will be 3 months in the distance. I have to take files, take records, fly down to Trinidad, try to pull a connection there, talk to doctor friends here, running up and down, left, right, and center. And, a friend of mine who is a medical doctor in Jamaica said to me, "But Farley, if you think about it, you got a lot more done in a short space of time than the average person would." And that hit me hard because it made me realize that although the system in many ways failed my mother, I still got it better than many others. And I wonder about so many people on this island who might be dying because we're just not getting certain basic things right. And I just feel like we could do better. And this is not a condemnation of everybody that went before. It's not coming from a place of arrogance where I think somehow I am better than everybody or more perfect than everybody. But I just want to challenge everybody, all of you, that we just have to do better. We can do better. We actually can. And somebody somewhere told us this great lie that this is the best we could do and that you can't do better and that we should not step beyond some imaginary boundaries set for us by somebody else. And I'm saying, let us step out of the box, think out of the box, destroy the box even, and go beyond what we are accustomed to, because we could actually fix this space. We could actually do better. So the mantra is simple. Let we fix this. Let we fix this. It's not about me. It's not about any member of my team. It's not about any individual, but it's about the collective we, the people. We, the people, and the power of we, the people, to get this right this time. It's a start. And it's an investment that you have to make in yourself. But make the investment. And when you do that, we're going to fix this. We're going to fix this. I'm confident that we could fix this. We have to fix this. Our lives, our generations to come are depending on us fixing it today. Not tomorrow, not 4 years down the road, not 5 years from now. Let's not delay it at all. Let we fix this. And let we fix this right now.
Let me fix this.
Good evening, Tobago. And you heard in a very personal way from all of our candidates in this election. And we wanted to take some time before going on the hustings tomorrow evening to actually sit down with you and to just answer your questions, whatever those questions are. And we are going to do something that is unheard of in politics anywhere in this country. We are going to have a very uncontrolled, unscripted conversation. And we are inviting you on the live, wherever you are, to ask any question about any issue, even the questions you think are extremely difficult questions. And if you are on this live and you belong to another party, you're welcome to ask questions. If you're on this live and you weren't thinking about voting, you're welcome to ask questions, because this is an upon personal take on the politics. And if I desire to be your next chief secretary, from now I have to practice answering your questions honestly, face to face, up close and personal. And this is what it is about. I employed my candidates over the past week to actually sit down and to spend some time and to answer questions concerning what motivated them in the politics, why they're here, what they hope to achieve for their respective districts. And we want to continue that conversation this evening. We have only an hour for this program, and we have just gone past 20 minutes. So we have just shy of 40 minutes remaining for our discussion. And so we ask that you fire away on any question, any issue whatsoever, and we'll be willing to answer your question. Once your question is selected, and I have no control over who is selecting the question and how the questions will be selected. It will pop up on the screen, and we'll be able to have an honest conversation about it. If I give you an answer and you think it's not answered sufficiently, you want further discussion, it is something that I will love for us to have, because this is an opportunity to hear from you more than you just hear from me. It's an opportunity for you to actually get answers to the things you actually want. And if you notice that we have been purposeful in flipping our political traditions on its head. And the reason for that is because we want to create a new paradigm. We want to shift things around. We want to move past hackneyed model of politicking and move to a new dispensation where we can actually have meaningful conversations about our varying political philosophies that can result in change and transformation. Because this is what this is about. We started last year talking about transformation and let's transform Tobago. One smart man said, I don't know what we're transforming Tobago from to, but every Tobagonian knows that we need to transform Tobago into something else. And so I'm asking those in master control that perhaps you could cue the first question up for us. I have my phone here with me. All right, so the first question, the leader, who is? All right, so the question is perhaps about the leadership of the PDP. And we get this question a bit, but this is something we have been speaking about since 2019. There are no tricks hidden anywhere. Here are the facts. The political leader of the Progressive Democratic Patriots is still Mr. Watson Solomon Duke. The person that this party has designated to be Chief Secretary and the team lead for this campaign is Farley Chavez Augustine. There is nothing illegal about that, nothing tricky about that. We don't deal with tricks on this side. In fact, if you look at the THA Act 40 of 1996, it is clear that who becomes Chief Secretary has absolutely nothing to do with who is the leader of a party. That might be a figment of some people's imagination, a pigment rather of some people's imagination, but that doesn't exist in the THA Act. What happens is that after we are elected, the 15 elected will have to sit down in the chamber and someone will have to nominate me from my party to be Chief Secretary. Someone from my party will nominate me to be Chief Secretary. Someone from the other party, if there is another party after PDP is done with the election, can nominate someone else. A vote will be taken, and the person that wins the vote becomes the next Chief Secretary. Naturally, the party with the largest number of seats will have someone that will become the Chief Secretary, because naturally they will be able to win the vote for a Chief Secretary. That is how a Chief Secretary is selected. It's different from what occurs in the National Parliament, where the President appoints someone who she believes commands the majority of support of the House, and the President tends to appoint who she sees as the leader of a respective party. It does not exist that way in the THA. And that's one of the reasons why when we were having the conversations about autonomy for Tobago and the proposed bills, and we were proposing amendments, we were so adamant that the THA should not resemble the National Parliament, because the framers of the THA Act, Mr. Robinson in particular, made every effort to create for Tobago a more advanced kind of legislature. So, for example, we have more or less a fixed date for elections. So you can't just call a THA elections just so based on the THA Act. The THA elections happens on the anniversary of the first sitting of the House, the 4th anniversary of the first sitting of the House. It automatically dissolves for itself and a date happens thereafter. And if it has to be called before, then it must be by a vote of resolution in the House, which is unlike the National Parliament again, where Prime Minister at any moment, Rowley could get up right now and dissolve the Parliament and call an election date. That cannot happen in the THA. And so yes, to answer you in short, the leader of the PDP is Mr. Watson Duke. However, the leader for the THA campaign, and hopefully the next leader of the Tobago House of Assembly Executive, will be Farley Chavez Augustine. And that has been very clear since October of 2019. Next question. What happens if they nominate Watson Duke for Chief Secretary? That's not going to happen. That's as simple as that. It's not going to happen. We are a team. I don't know what you think of the PDP, and I know you will want to judge the PDP based on what you see happening within the rank and file of the PNM. And I'm not saying that we don't have disagreements within the rank and file of the PDP. We do. And we do have strong arguments and views back and forth. But we don't have the kind of sinister behaviors that we saw happen in the THA about a year ago when an effort was made to remove Kelvin Charles. So that's not going to happen. It's very clear. My team is very clear. I get the support of the entire team. So no, that's not going to happen. I have a question. I see a lot of talk about land distribution and housing, etc. Are there any plans for persons with land who may need assistance with getting their building project off the ground? Good question, Mr. Nancis. And here's why it's a good question. What I propose is a Tobago Land and Housing Trust. And that trust, the THA will inject some capital into the trust. And you, whether you work in the public sector, whether you work in the private sector, whether you work for yourself, you can contribute to the trust just as you would to any bank account. When you are ready to build, either to build a home, or you're ready to buy land, or you're ready to buy land and home, you can get the capital to do that project from the Land and Housing Trust. And I'm guaranteeing you that we will ensure that the interest rate from the Land and Housing Trust is significantly lower than the commercial banks. Why are we doing this? Well, a couple of reasons. One, we need a sustainable pathway to providing housing for people. In the last 5 years, we have not built a single house through the THA, not one single house. Trinidad on average builds about 3,000 a year. I don't know what the numbers have been over the last 2 or 3 years because COVID would have slowed them down, no doubt. Tobago, by contrary, have not built a single house in the last 5 years. If you look at the last 21 years of the THA, on average, we built 11 homes per year on average. If we are to divide the number of homes we built over the last 21 years, so we get the yearly average. So when we have this trust, we have a more sustainable pathway to ensuring that we can have homes. Because remember, the THA is injecting some capital into it. You, the public, can buy into the scheme, can invest your money into it. So monies are coming into it, quite like you would a bank, and we'll be able to churn out homes and so on. Number two, the second purpose for this is that we need to drive the market prices down for building a home. Construction materials are expensive in Tobago. Then the cost of homes in Tobago are extremely expensive and cost prohibitive. And price of land is expensive. And so what we need to do is to force the market prices downward. I don't know about you, but as somebody who living at home still and looking for some place to call my own, you know, blessed is the man that have your own. Every time you look online and you say, okay, I see this nice house. Okay, it's COVID last 2 years. Nobody am buying any house in this season. The prices got drop. Drop where? Drop nothing. Prices don't drop when it comes to land and homes in Tobago. In fact, they just keep going up and up and up. And the THA has to purposefully get into the market and drive the market prices down by becoming competitive with a land and housing trust. What we have now is not sustainable, is not workable, and that's why we have been unable to deliver more than an average of 11 homes per year. So, Mr. Nancis, at the end of the day, yes, we will create a land and housing trust that you could go into and get access to funding to build your home. Especially you as a young professional, you will get that access. When I check the banks, if I need $1.5 million with retirement age at 60, and if I'm 27 years old right now, no debt at all, good credit rating. If I'm at RBC, I might need at least $22,000 monthly salary to qualify. If I'm at FCB, I need at least $27,000 to qualify, and that's with 10% down payment. At FCB, you could get it at 0% down payment, but you need a qualifying salary of at least $30,000. The average Tobagonian not working for that. Your secretary is not working for that. Let me tell you that. Your secretaries don't work for no big money, yeah? They're not working for that. And so we have to force the prices down and make home ownership affordable to our people, because that has to be a priority over the nice cars, over the bling and all the other things that we do. With regard to the revitalization of our private sector, what are your plans to increase the spending population on the island in order for businesses to be sustainable? Right. And this question speaks to the issue of economies of scale, which is a good question, in that we want to boost the private sector. We want the private sector to do well. We in the PDP are not saying that the private sector is nonsense. Let we forget them. Let we cut them out. One of the reasons why the private sector failed is because in many instances, the THA is a direct competitor with the private sector. I mean, we're trying to build hotels and all kind of things we sell. So, couple of things. One, we are going to implement a robust program that will incentivize returning home. So we want to encourage people from the Tobago diaspora to come home. We have more Tobagonians living in Trinidad, living in the US, living around the world in what we call it diaspora, who have money, who have talent, who are well educated, who have things that they can contribute to our society. And so what we will be doing is that we are going to incentivize their return home, ensure that we can provide access to land, housing, once they have proper proposals for business and so on, so that can increase the numbers. Secondly, we need a viable tourism sector, because with a viable tourism sector, we can artificially inflate our numbers ever so often. Imagine what it would have felt like the year Tobago had 80,000 plus visitors. Imagine 80,000 in addition to those resident on the island. That is a significant boost in population numbers. And so that too will help with the economies of scale. Thirdly, we are at this place where we are saying that the marketing department of the THA will be revamped, reshaped, and please don't feel if you're working marketing Farley coming to fire you. That's not what I'm saying. We are going to repurpose how we go about this marketing department or marketing board. Our aim is to help you, whatever you are producing, help you get your product to the end user. And why is marketing important? Because right next door to Tobago, we have a population of over 1 million people. And the same way we jump on a boat with our cars and go down to Price Mart, if we have excellent products coming out of Tobago, then we have a market in Trinidad that we can sell our products to. And we are saying to those of you in the private sector that we will help you do the marketing to our neighbors in Trinidad. We will also create something that is called Brand Tobago with a unique identifiable logo that once it has it, people will know that it's of the highest quality, whether it's agro processed product, whether it is something from the creative industry like a piece of clothing or something of that sort. It will be branded in a particular way that people will know it comes from Tobago and it's of a high quality, and we will look for the markets. We will work with big supermarket chains across the country, ensure that there are Tobago shelves dedicated to Tobago in the supermarkets. All of these things will give you access beyond the living population, the resident population rather, on the island of Tobago. And so we, on one hand, we're trying to boost the population size by encouraging people to return home, because our outward migration rate is extremely high. We are also looking to boost it by finally fixing tourism, which will artificially increase our population size. And if we do things like tertiary education, as we have been advocating, we can see the population grow with students coming in, with parents coming to visit students, with the regular tourists coming for sun, sea, and sand, and so on. But in addition to those things, we will also be actively looking at the Trinidad market, and we actually proposed something that we call an embassy for Tobago in Trinidad that will do just that. And that's not strange. There's a Scottish house that is located in London. Florida has an embassy in Washington, D.C. And the idea behind that is that if you set up shop where your capital is, you who are from, those of us who are from the distant parts of the country, we can actually market ourselves. We can attract businesses. We can sell goods and services through that office that we will set up in Trinidad, and that will purposefully target our Trinidadian brothers and sisters for our services and our products from Tobago. What is PDP doing to maintain the integrity of the elections in light of no international observers? Now, we wish there were international observers, and it's not because we are arguing that that there is something tricky will happen in the elections. We wanted international observers because we are moving from 12 seats to 15 seats. The rules of the game was changed to facilitate this new election, and it was an opportune time to have international observers look at what we do and to look at our process and suggest ways for improvement. That has been rejected. In fact, the Prime Minister has just ignored our requests altogether. And so in light of that, what we are doing is that we are setting up in having our own observers for every step of the way, every step of the journey, all along the path. So we are going to do that setup. It means that we are going to observe the special voting aspect. We are going to observe carefully what happens in the polling station. We'll do our due diligence, and you, the public, you who are working for EBC, you who are working as volunteers, you have to be part of our observer mission, a part of the mission to look and scrutinize the election to ensure that we have free and fair elections. But I'm pretty confident that regardless of what can be tried or may be tried, that Tobagonians will show up to the polls in such overwhelming numbers that it will be difficult to cheat in this election. After you win THA, will you do an independent audit on THA spending and find out where the zipline money gone or excess money disappeared? That's one of the first items of business. Auditing several accounts and departments of the THA. The truth is, we have almost always had an adverse opinion from the Auditor General over the last 21 years. And if we have to move forward in a way that allows for transparency and accountability, we have to actually spend some time looking at where we have gone wrong, finding mistakes. And we're not just doing this audit because we want to look for people to prosecute. It's not a witch hunt we're going to go on. But we are going to do the audit so that we can become better stewards of the monies we are given. I like the questions coming in so far. What are the plans for persons employed with the TRHA who are working on short-term contracts for years? Are there intentions to make persons permanent? Right, so let me say this clearly. Legally, if you have been on short-term contract for years, legally, you are as good as permanent. Because if the state has consistently contracted you under similar terms and conditions over and over and over again, you have a reasonable expectation to be treated as if you are permanent. And this is something I have a serious issue with. It's not just in TRHA, but also in education and several other departments. I was a contracted employee in education as a teacher. In fact, several of us were contracted educators, as they call us, and we were being paid less than our counterparts who were doing the same job. And in fact, some of us are doing more jobs, more work rather than some of the so-called permanent ones. And this is not a condemnation of the permanent ones. It's a condemnation of a system that does not work. You have people on short-term contract for several years. Let me fix this. The Chief Secretary promised that people will not get less than 3-year contracts. but that is not totally true across the board. In TRH, I've raised the issue where some healthcare practitioners, their contracts are set up in such a way that, if they miss a day, they don't get paid for the day. So the poor workers, even if they feel sick, even if they're stressed out, even if they head hot in them, even if they get a horn and they can't function properly, they're forcing themselves to show up to work in extreme mentally challenging conditions, just because they know they will not get paid. And there's a correlation between how you treat laborers and the kind of productive output you will get from them. My thing is, as a teacher, we must give people the best possible terms for them to work on, so that if you're not productive and you're in work, then we know how to treat with you. But you can't abuse people through these contracts. And yes, we are going to fix those short-term contracts. And I mean, if you're on short-term contracts for in excess of 5 years, then you might as well be made permanent. That's our position as a party. How do you plan to treat with the remaining residents in Cromson Trace who are still to be paid and relocated due to the airport being built? Now, let me tell you something. You see, the people who live in the back of the airport, I realized all they had no advocate for you. And I've tried in the past to not get too much involved in tongue people business. And I don't mean that in a derogatory manner. I tried to not become obstructionists in the way of the airport development plans. But let me be clear with you. PDP winning this election means, the first thing is, that will mean is that you now have an advocate on your side. That's the first thing, because you are our responsibility. There is no reason for the THA to be standing on the same side with the central government on this matter. The THA should be your advocate. As I heard a recording from a Twitter space recently with a former student of mine who said it perhaps most eloquently. When they had the same party in Trinidad and the same party in Tobago, them nonsense does happen, right? They just abuse and they don't get the things done. Everybody just sit down and agree and agree and agree, and nobody just fight for you. So the first thing you will get is a fighter on your behalf, because nobody come in and bully you from your land and then pay you what you're worth. Because I've seen THA purchase lands and the government purchase other lands in Tobago at exorbitant prices. And your land down in the back of Crown Point there is more valuable than those lands that the THA purchased at exorbitant prices. And I'm saying to you, that had to fix. You have to be paid well. I am also painfully aware that people can't begin to build on in Cove and so on because they're waiting on utility lines to be put in place so that they could start a bill and so on. Meanwhile, rent taking up all the money. They don't break down the house. So by the time they're ready to give them the land for them to start a bill, guess what? You had no money to build. You just had the land there. That is unfair. It is patently unfair. And one of the things that we will also consider is what other incentives can we give to you? We believe the central government was unfair in how they treated you, that they did not pay you properly for your lands. One of the things we will consider is that those lands that Cove and Shervan at the THA wants you to buy to relocate, we will consider giving those lands to you for free. And we said it before, so you don't have to pay for those lands. You just use the money, the little kakada they pay you, to go and actually relocate and to actually rebuild your home, because we have taken everything from you. I am not against the airport development. I believe Tobago needs a new terminal. I believe so. I believe a terminal is one's first and last impression of a country. So we need a terminal that does not look and feel like a cowshed. But at the same time, it cannot be at the expense of dislocating families and heritage and dislocating people's birthright without properly compensating them. And I am convinced that you guys were not properly compensated. And so in addition to advocating on your behalf, we will look into how we can make your relocation easier, make it easier for you to rebuild your home and rebuild your lives, because having a home is a human right, is a human need. Shelter is one of those things sociologists will tell you you absolutely need, and we want to ensure that you can effortlessly move into your new home. Mr. Augustine, what are your plans to treat with the issue of qualified persons in Tobago who hold entry-level positions in the public service, which the positions that they are duly qualified for have remained vacant, in some cases close to a decade? Listen, Miss Sandy, that is immediately going to be fixed. The THA has not done right by its public servants. And let me be frank with you. I spoke a while ago about being a contracted employee. You know how long we were begging the THA, write cabinet, send down your audit report to cabinet, your staff audit, so that we can get an extension of the number of staff on the substantive list for the schools. And for nothing, they will not do it. Now, in essence, and I'm coming back to your question, in essence, contracted employees should really be temporary. Temporary in place of where there might be a shortfall in the public service. But not when the shortfall is permanent. You have to fill the gaps. And if we have senior positions that are available and open for more than a decade, we are going, and you're qualified, you have been at this entry-level position for donkey years, you have more than served your dues, we are going to push you up and ensure the Public Service Commission does its job, interviews people, and appoints people to the positions that we have that are vacant. We have to fill those positions because we need a public service that works. And you did not ask this question, Miss Sandy, but let me also add to it. I have some reservations about how we go about contracting some employees within the THA. And I'm saying this carefully because I know somebody might want to run with this and say, I'm looking to fire people. No, I'm not looking to fire people. I'm looking for us to streamline how we go about employing people in the THA, streamline how we employ people via contracts as well, streamline our public service in such a way that people actually are promoted into the positions that they deserve to be in, and we're not leaving positions vacant and then hiring somebody on contract to do the work that a public servant should be duly appointed to do. And so we're going to fix all of these labor issues. Now, this is the party that believe in labor issues. This is the party that just condemn and criticize. When we stand up for workers, when we go and protest, they just say we rebel rousing and we like confusion and bacchanal and all kind of story. But we have to fix these labor issues. I am convinced that we can get productive work out of employees who are unhappy, and many within the public service are unhappy. You're at an entry-level position and you can't move up. You're watching the position, the seat empty however long, and you can't move up. Nobody coming to interview you, and if you get interviewed, the interview is still dating now. So it's donkey years since the interview and have to get interviewed over again in order to move up to our next position. These things have to be fixed, and one of the things that we will do is that we will hire a team to help us identify all of these vacancies easily, quickly, and begin to ensure the Public Service Commission does its job and move people into the requisite positions. There's also a need for these service commissions to have actual offices in Tobago, permanent offices in Tobago. Next question, PNM PDP debate question. Let me say it. I am open for debate. In fact, I will love to have a debate. I will love to have a debate between myself and the THA leader for the next team or the other teams, because there are 3 teams, right? Well, 4, counting unity of the people. So I would love for us to have a debate. I will be open to a debate once we have fair-minded moderators who can thread the middle ground and ask pertinent questions. I would love for us to sit down and debate the issues, debate ideas, and you'll be amazed that there may be some things that there are some similarity in thoughts about. So, for example, recently someone sent me a video with Mrs. Davison Celestine saying that the THA can't employ everybody, THA can't give everybody a work. Sounds similar? Sounds familiar? Yeah, quite similar to something I've been saying. So it shows that there are some areas of similarity, but there are some areas of serious discord. And I think Tobagonians deserve an opportunity to hear in real time, on the spot, without a rehearsal, without being given the questions before, how we truly feel about these issues affecting Tobagonians. I like this. What are the PDP plans for agro-processors and fish processors in Tobago? COVID has taught us the importance of food security and having value-added products that are shelf-stable to also cut down on the food import bill. Well, listen, you justify the need for support for agro-processors in your own question, Mr. Barton. And there are a couple of things we're going to do. One, we are going to set up laboratory facilities. So for those in agro-processing, you don't need to cart your things down to Trinidad for a lab to test your product to ensure you're ISO certified and you meet certain quality assurance measures and that your product is safe. We will provide laboratory services right here in Tobago so that you will have easy access to getting your products actually done well. Secondly, we will help you in terms of packaging. And Mr. Barton, those on the live may not know, you have one of the best agro-processed fish products on the island, if not the best. In fact, the best dry fish I have eaten, cornfish, smoked fish, whatever I call it, is from you. And the highest quality. When I look at your fish ham slices and I look at it, the thing look like it was imported. That's how excellent your quality and your packaging is. Unfortunately, that's not the same for everybody. We have to begin to move our agro-processors away from taking the dry fish and just putting it in a plastic bag and bumping the end and selling it to you. We have to present proper packaging, have on the packaging proper labeling, have probably recipes, instructions of how to prepare the product, all of these things. Thirdly, we, as I indicated before, we want to take charge of the marketing aspect for you. So, Mr. Barton, I want you to stay right in Palatavere, keep making the best fish products you can make, and let the THA do the marketing for you so that your product could be on Price Mart shelf. Your product could be in Massey, could be in Jumbo Foods or Extra Foods, because the THA would have had marketing experts who went out, sought the markets in neighboring Trinidad, throughout the Caribbean region, or even abroad. And you're right, if we assist agro-processors, then what will also happen is that we can reduce our food import bill, reduce the cost of food, reduce the drain on our forex, and actually increase our ability to eat healthier foods because we actually know what we put in our bodies. We also have to look carefully at all of these fishing depots that we built. These depots should have had facilities that could have allowed for some fish processing to happen there. We will look into the possibility of that too. We also are going to provide veterinary services because I'm going beyond just fish or the regular agro-processing products you think of. But we have to look at strong veterinary services available. I am into small ruminant farming. I have goats. And just yesterday, the vet was at my home, and I ensure I have good veterinary service for my goats. I love my goat's milk and that kind of thing. But I'm painfully aware that we have a situation where the sheep and goat van, for example, will come to Tobago and just purchase the sheep and goat at about $16 a pound live weight. They go to Trinidad, they bust the throat of the goat, right? Put it in a package and say halal. That time it probably ain't even halal. And as I say halal, it gone up to $52 a pound. And that speaks to your question of value added. And the fact that in Tobago, by majority, people who are farming and so on, we are still heavily involved in just selling the raw product, the base product, while somebody else is making the bulk of money off of our hard labor. So instead of you just selling the goat's milk raw or selling your goats alive, we have to ensure we could actually add the value to that before it goes down to Trinidad. We have to include things like a functioning abattoir so that we could move away from the backyard butchering. All of these things help with agro-processing. So it's the laboratory services, it's the abattoirs, the veterinary services, helping you with packaging and having high quality packaging and designs for your label and the marketing of your product. Because the truth is, Mr. Barton, your skill set might be in making the best dry fish on the planet, but your skill set might not be marketing your dry fish to be sold in Massey or Price Mart, or to be sent to Miami, Florida, to be sold in a supermarket there. That might not be your strong suit. And so the THA has to employ the experts. And there's an opportunity that we could actually employ some people meaningfully, employ some experts who could help us get your product where it needs to be get. What are your plans with tongue and country? Sometimes it takes years to get a simple plan passed. I love this question. On day one, the THA is taking charge of tongue and country planning. Let that sink in. Act 40 of 1996 gives the THA authority over tongue and country planning. You may not be aware, but between 1996 and 2001, the Tobago House of Assembly was in charge of tongue and country planning in Tobago. The then Chief Secretary, Mr. Hochoi Charles, was the one who was signing off on plans in Tobago. How do I know that? Because I remember at one time, some trainees who wanted to come up and do a gated community in Kingsby. The village council in Delaford and the people in environs did not agree with the plans. Guess what? The plans weren't passed. They were rejected by Mr. Hochoi Charles, who acted with the authority given in law to actually treat with tongue and country planning. We are going to take back tongue and country planning from Trinidad. I don't know who tell them people to take the authority and give it back to Trinidad. You see how they just take everything and send back down to Trinidad? They're not interested in no autonomy, you know. They're not interested in running business for ourselves. They're interested in allowing their slave masters in Trinidad to run this place. And they're satisfied being house slaves. I know they might issue a press release to that statement tomorrow, but I say that without intending to apologize. That you cannot have authority given to you by law and you take it and send it away to Trinidad. We are going to take control of tongue and country planning, which means that we are going to hire our own tongue planners, our own architects, our own engineers to sit here locally and to look over our plans and ensure that you get your plans approved in a timely manner. If we want to support the private sector and support growth and support businesses, then you can't have a situation where somebody apply for a pass, as we call it. And in applying for a pass, you cannot get an approval for years. I was at the home of a resident recently, and the resident was indicating that when he was building his home, it was not initially approved. And in order for him to have a query, he had to catch a flight, go down to Trinidad, take a taxi, go down to Central or South or somewhere there, just to sit before a board to argue his case in front of some people who don't even know where his land is located. They don't even know the lay of the land. They don't even know how the place look like. They never come to Tobago to go where he's building, but they rejecting the plans. We still at a stage where buildings have to be the height of a coconut tree. Still, 2021. There's also a need for us to have a new land use policy. There's also a need for us to have proper zoning of Tobago. And there is a need for us to have strict rules that adhere to environmental best practices so that we can prevent things like the significant loss of life or loss of property when rain falls heavily. All these landslips, I see people building in some precarious places because they can't get tongue and country planning approval, so they decide to just go ahead and do their own thing and build, when really what we need is a robust system that is attentive to your needs. So, long story short, we're taking up our rightful responsibility with tongue and country planning, and it's something we are ready to go to court for. Deficiencies in the healthcare system, and how does the PDP plan on addressing and improving it? Part of the deficiencies in the healthcare system has to do with staffing. In some areas within the healthcare system, we are not adequately staffed. We also have to rethink how we go about scheduling medical practitioners to work within the public healthcare system. Thirdly, we have to stress on customer service, which is a big part of healthcare delivery that we have not paid sufficient attention to. Fourthly, we have to diversify our offerings, and it's about time we begin to set up some specialized units. And I'm not talking about the haphazard way a former Secretary of Health was going about setting up a rainbow of rooms. Every Monday morning I hear a room of a different color, but you weren't really getting delivery from it. So for example, we have a pink room in country that's supposed to treat with cancers. But I remember when my mother was ill, I called, do you do this type of test? Do you do that type of test? No. At best, at the time, all they were doing at the time was the physical breast examination and so on. And I'm saying we have to be very purposeful and detailed in building out these units as we diversify our offerings. We'll be looking in particular at the issue of cancer. Too many Tobagonians are coming down with cancers, and by the time you are diagnosed, you're already dead, right? And that has been my experience in my family, that by the time we get the actual diagnosis, death came before. So it means that we are not working efficiently, we are not working fast enough. We also have to inject into healthcare proper maintenance schedules and regimes. So very often you go to the hospital and you hear this machine ain't working, MRI breakdown, X-ray breakdown, that not working, this spoil. That means that we need to have a proper maintenance regime with qualified people to look over these machines and ensure that they are working optimally. Again, we have to beef up support for laboratory services on the island, because very often, I know someone told me recently that they're waiting 2 years, 3 years now for a lab result from up at the hospital, and they just forget it altogether. And eventually had to go private to get the result. So we have to work on those too. We also have to look at the issue of wellness. In Tobago, we have been boasting about how many patients we see. And we seem to think that if there's an increase in the number of diabetic patients we see and treat, it means the healthcare system is working. That is a sign that the system is actually failing. So we have to flip the switch on how we view healthcare and begin to talk wellness. We are looking at our health centers to become wellness centers, more than a place that you go to just test your pressure or your sugar on doctor day, and the doctor just see you and look at certain basic vitals. The health centers must become wellness centers that can teach you how to live healthily, how to eat healthily, how to live well. We are also looking at how we can marry healthcare into our tourism product. About 2 budgets ago, Minister Imbert spoke about using Cove Hospital to generate that kind of tourism pull factor into the country. So people who want to come here to do specialized surgeries and so on. Well, when I look at Tobago is better poised for that kind of wellness tourism. You can't feel well in a hospital when you look out the window, all you see is highway with cars and smoke and smog. But imagine if we get into palliative care and we begin to set up these nice places in these nice locations with views and birds chirping and waterfall in the background and so on. That helps with the wellness. We can earn money as an island from that as well. I could, if I was terminally ill and I know I'm going and dead, I will want to die in a place like Tobago. So those are things we can capitalize on. And I can't talk healthcare without saying we have to look at health education, which is important because you have to change the way we live, the way we eat. Most of us, when we die, will die from lifestyle diseases. If we look at the data and look at the trend, diabetes, hypertension, heart-related diseases, those things are the major causes of death. Cancers as well, causes of death in Tobago. We have to change the way we eat, and that goes back to why we need to support agro-processors and support our local farmers. It means that we have to change the way we eat, even at harvest. I know we like with good stew down with plenty coconut and all the oil floating on top. When you don't eat, your lips shine like you're greasy down with Vaseline. I know we like our foods hearty and well seasoned and so on, done properly. But we also have to balance that with the need to eat healthily, to exercise regularly. And it's also why we are are proposing to upgrade some of the main routes where people exercise. So for example, going up French Fort, a lot of people exercise there. We plan to install water stations along the way, stationary bikes, like you see around Etihad, Grong and so on in Trinidad, and bars that people could pull up and so on along the way. So your exercising routes will promote healthy living as well. Along our playing fields will ensure we have jogging tracks and so on, and encourage the population to get up, to run, to move, to get moving, to exercise, because part of dealing with healthcare is reducing the number of people who need to actually go to the hospital. I have a question on health. Are there any plans in the future to introduce doctors' quarters in Charlottesville and in the north of Tobago in the event of emergency? People can listen. I don't even need to read out the rest of the question. That was the plan, and that should have been the plan, and we will make that plan come to pass. We built this massive health facility in Charlottesville, and we promised the people of Charlottesville that we will have extended hours of services in Charlottesville. That doesn't exist. It never existed. The health center in Charlottesville has accommodated all kind of offices except for treating with healthcare. We had immigration there, we had customs there, all kind of things, but we didn't get the kind of healthcare delivery we want there. So yes, we are going to go back to the days when we have doctors' quarters scattered around the island, especially in rural parts, so that we can have trained personnel on site in areas in the case of any emergency, because there are some deaths that I believe can be preventable if healthcare, urgent attention is actually had at the time of the emergency. We will also beef up our ambulance services. So we no longer have an ambulance station in Charlottesville. I am not so sure about Delaford. I haven't seen one station in Delaford since the new hospital, as you call it, 8-4 hospital in Roxborough set up. It's really a health center. But we need to also have ambulance services stationed around the island. That might mean investing in more ambulances as well. So yes, we will go back to the days where we have healthcare professionals in outlying districts being resident there, being paid to sleep in those areas. And we do have some young doctors and so on who will be happy for that experience. What type of tourism does the PDP intend to focus on, and how? Health tourism, sport tourism, education, eco and marine, etc. So I spoke about health tourism and how that could work. The one additional thing I will add to health tourism is that we have, since 2017, been saying we will find some young people and send them to study so that we can begin to look at our alternative medicines. You see all them bush medicine that we grew up on? We need people to study them and to find out why, when they drink some trumpet bush, when they get it cold, why it does work, right? Who knows? We might have the cure for COVID lying on the ground someplace in Tobago, but we have not spent the time to actually research and study all of those traditional medicines that we grew up on. We don't even know why they work. What are the properties of them that work? So we will look into that as an extension of what I've spoken about before in terms of health tourism and using things like palliative care and rehab facilities, and encourage people to come here for specialized treatments and so on, and to retire here and so on. I know all of these things will help to inflate our population size. Education tourism, we have been speaking ad nauseum about the need for tertiary education on the island, and we propose to have tertiary education as a sort of satellite system for different campuses strategically placed around the island. One to treat with environmental, agricultural, marine studies, another to treat with business, another to treat with the creative arts, and the final and fourth one to treat with healthcare, research, and so on. So we'll look into that. So that will bring a big pull to the island in terms of increasing our population size, albeit temporarily, through students coming here. And of course, with education, you have townships will always develop around wherever a university campus is. And the model we propose is not that we should go from scratch and try to start a university from scratch. But the model we proposed was to have the facilities available and encourage top brass universities from around the world to come to Tobago and offer their programs in Tobago. This happens in Qatar, for example, where the Qatari government built this massive complex, and they bring in all the top universities from around the world, all the Ivy Leagues, to set up shop there. And people will go there and get their education from an Ivy League without having to go to the US or the UK. We want to do something similar here, so that we will facilitate programs that are top class, world class, that comes here. What that will do, it will act as a competitor to UA. Just imagine for a second if it is we have Berkeley College of the Arts doing some programs here out of the water tank in Shaw Park that is closed more than it's open, doing some university degree programs and master's programs here. You know, much people will leave creative arts programs in Trinidad and around the Caribbean and flying to Tobago to do that program. Imagine for a second if Oxford or Cambridge decide that they will offer some, or University of Kent or one of those, that they will offer some of their programs here, or Harvard will offer some of their programs here. I'm talking degree programs here. People will leave all over and come here because it will be cheaper to fly into Tobago to access those programs. So that's education tourism there. Ecotourism we cannot get away from because Tobago's best asset is its environment. And I am privileged to represent the part of Tobago that is really the capital of our eco-tourism thrusts. We have the main ridge, the majority of the main ridge rainforests in my district. I mean, some people think that nobody lives there, but there are people living there, and in this election, there are 3,700 plus of us who can vote in my district. We also have all our reef systems to protect, and that coincides with our education thrust too, because we have to bring in the researchers to look at environmental degradation, how we could develop sustainably and so on. So yes, we want to diversify away from sun, sea and sand. Tourism has to occur in a cluster, and we can no longer just compete with Barbados and Grenada with just telling people come because we have a nice beach, come because we have a large brain coral, come because we have the rainforest. We have to diversify away from that and add more products to the tourism offering so that they will come from more than just sun, sea and sand. I am not sure what the time is, but somebody will, I see we over the hour mark, so we might as well go to an hour and a half. I think we have an hour and 18 minutes thereabouts. Will there be an intervention for motors? Listen to me. You don't even have to ask the question. The only political party that made a pitch for motorsports in Tobago is the PDP. And Farley Chavez Augustine was the one who made that pitch. Now, I ain't too long get my license, so I'm a green driver on the road. But I really like the fast driving. And I like to see the motorsports happening and things. And I am concerned that for years, our young people and those interested in that sport had to resort to going down Canopy and on the highway and doing the sport in an unsafe manner. And I'm telling you, I'm pledging to you that within the next 4 years, within our first term in office, you will get adequate motorsporting facilities. You will get that. It's not if, but, or maybe. That's one of the areas that will also advance our tourism thrust, because I could think of people wanting to come here, wanting to come and actually race in Tobago. We have beautiful views. I can also see a situation where international media houses will come here to capture some of our motorsport meets. We can invite and bid for international motorsport meets right here in Tobago and make that a major sporting offering for Tobagonians and for the Caribbean. We can actually do that, and it's one of the areas that we will be investing in early on. And this is not the kind of promise like how they promise we are indoor sporting complex and it only now building after 21 years. I am telling you, within the first 4 years in office, you will get a sporting facility. And I am aware that a private developer was trying to get something done in the past. We will look into what that private developer was doing. We'll work with that private developer if needs be. But the THA is the single largest landholder on the island, and one of the areas that we have to give support to is our motorsporting sector. So you're guaranteed that. I'm guaranteeing you that tonight. Can we have the next question, please? So we have about 10 minutes remaining. The dump in Mount St. George. In 2017, they laughed at Dr. Faith B. Israel when she spoke about, shutting down the dump in Mount St. George, having a comprehensive waste management plan and program for the island, doing proper recycling, not just compressing the plastic bottles and shipping it off to somewhere, but actually doing recycling, value added as we talk about. And she proposed that, look, we could take the old dump and repurpose it into a golf course. Some people laugh. But if we were a society where leaders read a lot more, they will see that in other jurisdictions, dumps are being repurposed into golf courses, into gardens, into green spaces, because there are only certain types of activities you could have at a former dump over a certain period of time, because there's a need to allow for a lot of decaying and allow for the soil and so on to become healthy again. And so yes, we are looking into repurposing that dump into something else, into closing it down and having a comprehensive waste management program. There are some areas, even in my district, for example, if you look at King Street, the garbage truck doesn't pass through King Street at the moment in Delaford. People in King Street have to cart the garbage all the way out to the junction at Windsor Road. And for years we're begging for the garbage truck to pass through the street to pick up the garbage. It doesn't happen. There's also a need for us to have smaller trucks for some areas, because the terrain of Tobago in some areas means that we can't have big trucks passing through them. So we need to have smaller trucks for certain areas, especially in the rural parts. We need to begin to educate our population in sorting the garbage. And I have worked with CPEP, and I could recall one of the programs we were doing with the CPEP workers, that we were training them how to sort the garbage. In fact, the last time we did a cleanup together, that meaning the CPEP gangs in Speyside and myself, we were actually sorting the garbage, sorting plastics from the metals, from the things that we think can go back into the soil, like food, waste and that kind of thing. And we sorted the garbage. We put them in different color garbage bags. We placed them on the trucks, and and hopefully they were dumped accordingly. But as an entire island, we have to be educated about that, and we have to go in that direction. And if we are going to promote Tobago as a clean, green destination, we have to begin to manage our waste properly. And we can actually say to the world that this is something we are doing, and this is what makes Tobago the greenest Caribbean island. I know Dominica advertises itself as the nature island, but we want to be so sustainable that we can rival what Dominica is doing. What is your definition of development? And can you expound on different types of development? Do you think mental development is key to true development, or the first step to real development? Can you say Tobago has, and I'm not seeing a part of the question, Tobago has developed over the years? Now, there are varying definitions to development. On one hand, I like to go with a sustainable development definition, which is developing in a way or in a manner today so that a generation 15 years from now can develop and use the same resources we are using now without being impeded from doing so. Let me break that down in layman's terms. What that means is that the way we develop today must be in such a way that 15, 20 years from now, our children, the children that I ain't get yet, that's still somewhere in my back and I ain't get to push out yet, right? When them children come, they must be able to develop in the same manner as their father was developing. They must have access to the same kind of resources as their father had. And that is how you know you have sustainable development. We don't have sustainable development if 15, 20 years from now, children will be asking us what is an iguana, because there will be no iguanas left on the island. We don't have sustainable development if 15, 20 years from now, there are certain fruits like a bagatelle and so on we could no longer find. They're no longer existent. And so the kind of development I will be pushing and my team will be pushing will be sustainable development. How do we develop in a manner today in such a way that 15, 20 years from now, the generation that takes over then can have access to the same resources that we have today for our development. But the question I also asks about the issue of mental development, which is outside of the boundaries of the kind of hardcore development that you see United Nations and the HDI, the parameters in the HDI, the Human Development in this index, that they will judge and weigh a country for, measure a country by. And this issue of mental development is key. And being in politics, it made me realize, painfully so, how much work we have to do with the psyche of the Tobagonian. Too many Tobagonians are easily fooled. Too many Tobagonians have not been taught to think critically and to catch a vision. And too many Tobagonians have been made to expect mediocrity. And for that to change, we have to change our mental perspectives on life. We have to change our minds. But Mali says, none but ourselves can free our minds. I can't come into your brain and change it. I can fix education. And we have spoken about fixing the curriculum, about teaching life skills in schools, about ensuring that we double down on teaching critical thinking, and ensure that we improve on those subject areas like English literature, for example, that will teach critical thinking skills, that we give students an opportunity to always voice their concerns and to be liberal with their voice and so on. These are ways we can save tomorrow's generation from the kind of mental bondage that we found ourselves in. Let me give you a classic example. I went to school at a time when we all thought that success was defined by getting to A-levels, because at the time there were only 2 schools in Tobago offering A-levels, Compre and Bishops. You get to A-levels and you find a way to get a government work. That is the whole thrust of your success story. But by the time I got to university, I looked around and I recognized that there was more to life than just getting a government work. And I perhaps, if I was taught differently, I may not have been in politics, but there are so many other avenues and career paths I could have chosen. And I can say the same for many my generation and even some younger. And that all speaks to the issue of how we free our minds and how we treat with the issue of how we were taught, how we were raised. We have to change that. We have to allow our young people to become more liberal in how they think. And let me warn you, you see the generation to come, I ain't talking about we millennials. I'm talking about we call them generation what? Z? X? I'm not even sure we're calling them. But generation Z, I believe. But that generation, they're not biting as nicely as millennials or the generation before us. They know what they want. They're going to be forceful. They're going to even be rude in getting what they want. And we have to provide avenues for them. So yes, we have to do some work when it comes to how we perceive things, how we think things through. And that has to do with education. Do you think Tobago is allocated enough in the budget to run Tobago and implement all that is envisioned and have been speaking about thus far? And if not, how do we plan to achieve this? No, we are not budgeted enough. I keep talking about the imbalance between recurrent expenditure and capital development. We only get 264 million for development budget in the budget that was read in October. Now let's look at that. That 264 million is what? Almost half less than how much we spent to fix up the Red House. Let us soak in for a bit. This country was prepared to spend more money on fixing up 1 billion than they prepared to give to an entire island to fix it up. The acreage of this island is about 116 square miles. Where's the acreage of the Red House by comparison? 50,000+ live here. 50,000+ people can't even go in the Red House. We can't even surround the Red House. It has no space. Yet, what we are given for capital development is significantly less. And I'm not the only person who thinks so. Look at the budgets that Joel Jack has been giving every single year. He asking for 4 billion and so on. So clearly, PNM also thinks that the money that we get is not enough. And clearly, they also think that we need more money to be able to run the island's affairs. But you ask an interesting addition to the question. If what we get is not enough, what should we do? What we need to do is raise the capital. And that's another thing that Tobago has not been doing. We have not been raising the capital. Now, if we had a robust private sector, then we will be collecting a lot more taxes in Tobago, and that will help to raise the capital. But, you know, the private sector don't get killed off by them already. We have to find a way to take the iron thing, I don't know what to call it, and shock the private sector back to life when we get into office. And that could help to raise the capital if you have a robust business sector happening. But in addition to that, we need to decide as an island, what can we sell to the world? You don't make money if you have nothing to sell to the world. You don't make money if we don't have a commercial port to export things to the world. And I'm not saying a commercial port to import things. I am into the consumerism that we like to be on. Right? And while the distribution sector has done us a good and has employed plenty of people on the island, we have to go beyond that. What is it that we can sell to the world? What product or products can Tobago produce at a competitive advantage? Meaning we can produce better than most of the world. That when we sell it, the world will want to buy it. And it could be simple things. It could be simple things as simple as the Benet and Tambran that we just take for granted and buy on the port to carry along to Trinidad and give to friends and family members. But why do we import Picarindo, but we can't export our Tambran ball and Benet ball? You have to understand that Picarindo started in somebody's kitchen, just like a Tambran ball. Started with somebody granny, some abuelita, somewhere about in Mexico, in some Spanish country. So what is stopping us from taking these hearty things that we were taught, these indigenous things that we were taught and that we can earn money from and monetize? We have to look at the creative sector. Some people just call it the orange economy. I had a time with the big phrase tonight. But the world is fascinated by the fact that we could dance. We love with belly and we bongo, and we love with tambran and we reel and jig and so on. But have we monetized it? Are we copywriting our products in the creative industries? What about intellectual property rights? How do we take advantage of that so we can increase our income? What about knowledge? When we train people, how can we use the people we train and we educate well to go out in the world and earn money that can then be repatriated to us? How can we do that? These are areas we have to explore, because to meet the budget shortfall, Tobago has to begin to earn more money. We have to begin to earn more money than what we get from Trinidad. And I can tell you, if we get the autonomy thing right, then we can earn more money. And one of the sticking points for the autonomy bill is that we were adamant that there have to be a formula for sharing royalties from oil and gas drawn from Tobago's waters. There must be a formula for that. We have to eat piece of the pie too. It can't be a case where extracting all our resources and we don't have an opportunity to earn some from it too. That too can assist with carrying up our capital development budget. And I always love to explain it this way. Your recurrent expenditure is like your utility bills, paying your salary, paying for lights and water, paying your rent. Those are our recurrent expenditure, but the capital development is what we will need to build a new motor sporting facility. Is what we will need to build better sporting complexes and to rehabilitate what we have. Is what we will need to set up the university that I talk about, to set up healthcare in such a way that we can earn from it in terms of tourism. That's capital development expenditure. And that's why it pains me. It pains me to see sometimes how we use our capital expenditure monies, and how sometimes that money goes in the pockets of a few because we give out some big contracts for some meaningless projects, and we don't think about how we can use the little that we have to assist the majority among us. I saw a question on the live about cemeteries, and I just want to quickly answer that question before we round up. And the person was raising the issue of Boko Cemetery being almost full to capacity. You know, I never used to pay attention to cemeteries at all, because I see it as a place that people there, they just go there and you dump them, you cover them up, you put your wreath, whatever, and you go. You don't need to spend much money on it. But for health purposes, we need to. And I've traveled to countries, and after having traveled to other jurisdictions and realizing how they treat their cemeteries with such respect, and how these places look better than even the botanical gardens in town, in terms of how they lay out these parks and so on. They're like parks so that you can grieve in comfort and that kind of thing. I recognize that we have to do something critical for Tobago. We have to look into getting a crematorium in Tobago for those who want to go that route. And I'm not saying that the THA has to be the one to build a crematorium. We have undertakers in Tobago. We have companies in Tobago that treat with the dead and so on. We can encourage, we can support them, we can do public-private partnerships in assisting them in setting up a crematorium in Tobago. So we need at least one. We also need to look for fresh lands for cemetery, especially within that southwest peninsula, in that area around Boko, Bachelet, that might be filling up pretty quickly. And we need to manage how we go about using the spaces. So yes, it is something that we have to look into. In the last 5 years, only one cemetery came up in the discussions in the House, and I believe Dr. Carrington did some work at the Plymouth Cemetery, so that came out either in a budget debate or something of that sort. But we need to do more for all our cemeteries. When I go to Castara, for example, my plan is to put toilet facilities at the cemetery, and it's not just Castara, Speyside. Most of our public cemeteries don't have access to toilet facilities. So you're there, you're grieving, and you know in Tobago we love to support those who are in grief, and we will all show up at the public cemetery. But you show up there, a hot pee hole here, you have to go in some bush corner to try to relieve yourself. I mean, come on. Cemeteries must be a place where we can, in respect, dispose of those who died. And we have to upgrade these facilities. And it will also help us in terms of healthiness too. Because if we don't manage the disposing of the dead well, we could end up in serious health crises in other areas, because we could look at pollutants in our waterways, we could look at diseases spreading and so on. So it's something we just have to do, and do well enough. So we have been at this for about 1 hour and 38 minutes, and I'll be on board to answer as many questions as you have. When we walk and canvass your area, we want you to ask questions. We want you to ask questions and engage us in conversations. Let me tell you now that tomorrow morning we are on live, both on Facebook and Channel 5 at 8:30. 8:30, right, Master Control? From 9 a.m. So we're on live from 9 a.m. Sorry, not 8:30. So from 9 a.m. we will start a program called PDP Mornings. It will be more like mid-morning. And every day until election, I'm talking about the work day, that is during the work week, we'll be engaging you in the morning from 9 a.m. every single morning. And we'll be discussing these mandate issues, billing them out one by one, taking your questions. Tomorrow morning, for those who miss the broadcast of that intimate session with our candidates, that will be shown again tomorrow morning. So, you know, Granny, Auntie, then on the Facebook thing, they do a Facebook. And the TV tonight full up all kind of other people. Tell them watch tomorrow morning at 9, where we will show that video, that first 20 minutes, we will show it again in the morning. So you will get to see and hear from your candidates again in the morning. We are just under 3 weeks, 2 weeks and some days before the the election on December the 6th. Please let us keep it going. Let us keep it sane. And let's keep working. I'll be on tomorrow. I'll be the first guest tomorrow morning, and I'll be the last guest just before the actual election. And all our candidates will come in between. So tomorrow morning, I see you again to answer some more of your questions, to continue discussions on the issues that interest you, on the areas you will want us to plan on. And next week, we will be doing an official presentation with our mandate. Official presentation of our mandate. We have been spending the weeks prior going through section by section by section, and we will go through it in a big and official way and in a thorough and comprehensive way next week. So we look forward to keep engaging you as we move and march towards December the 6th. Remember, as I keep saying, and I keep saying it because I want you to actually believe it the same way I do. Tobago can become the greatest little island on the planet. I want you to believe it. I want you to believe that Tobago can become greater than Singapore, who had a similar history with us as us in terms of colonization, who became independent around the same time we became independent, shy a year or two, but who has been able to become a developed society rather quickly. What happened to us? What happened to we? Small islands can do big things too. And once upon a time, Tobago was known as the eyeball for the colonial masters. There was a proverbial saying to be as wealthy as a Tobago planter. You could find that in Christopher from Columbus to Castro, written by Dr. Eric Williams. That quote is inside there. It means that at one time Tobago was seen as a gem, seen as extremely productive and industrious. And I'm not saying that we need to enslave you to get back to that. What I'm saying is, now that we are free, now that we no longer have to work for any colonial master in Europe, together we can put our heads together, we can work it out, we can work through the challenges. We will have some challenging days post December 6th. It's not PDP winning and all of a sudden skittles and rainbow falling from the sky. That's not how it's going to work. But when we say let we fix this, is because we want you to be committed to fixing it as much as we are committed to fixing it. There is great power in we the people. So let me fix this together. Let me do this, let me do this, let me fix this and make Tobago the greatest little island on the planet. Thank you for listening. Thank you for watching. Thank you for participating. Thank you for your questions. You are free to keep messaging us further questions and concerns and things you think we have not addressed properly, and we will keep addressing them, not just leading to the election, but even post the election. Thank you, Tobago. Have a good night. Love you all. God bless you all.